I knew my whole life about the Crane Navy base, but you talk about a lot of people that are out of this region, they say, where do you work? You'll say the Crane Navy base. I'm like, I thought you lived in Indiana. There's a Navy base in Indiana.
Located just 35 miles southwest of Bloomington sits Naval Weapons Station Crane, our landlocked state's one and only Navy base.
Naval Weapons Station Crane is the third largest naval base in the world by size, behind China Lake in California and Naval Air Station Fallon, Nevada. We're approximately 62,000 acres, we're 97 square miles, and for perspective, we're approximately 33% larger than the city of Washington, D.C.
NWS Crane is tasked with many responsibilities by the Navy, but there's one key feature that makes it pretty unique. Hiking through the base's 50,000-acre forest, you might walk right past it without even knowing. But Navy foresters Rhett Steele and Rob McGriff know exactly what they're looking for.
Those are just some white oak leaves that have fallen here.
Out of all the tree species found at Crane, white oak is particularly special because of what it's used for.
The tree has value to everything in Indiana that uses it, down from wildlife, flooring, furniture, and the Navy historical aspect. It's valuable because we use it to make the planks for the USS Constitution.
Based in Boston's Charlestown Navy Yard, USS Constitution is the Navy's oldest commissioned warship and is kept afloat with that sought-after Indiana white oak. To help explain this connection, we sat down with the USS Constitution's resident historian, Margarita Deasy.
USS Constitution is the last of the original 6 warships that were built between 1794 and the last one was launched in 1800.
As American merchants began trading with Mediterranean nations, these ships were constantly harassed by North African pirates known as Barbary corsairs.
This finally became so much of a problem that in 1794, Congress passed the Naval Armament Act. So having a Navy to defend commerce, that is actually what the Navy was designed for originally in the 1790s, was in defense of commerce.
Launched in Boston in 1797, USS Constitution's most famous engagement wouldn't take place until the opening months of the War of 1812. On August 19, 1812, USS Constitution engaged the British frigate HMS Guerriere off the coast of Nova Scotia. Captain Isaac Hall of the Constitution closed the distance to point-blank range, and after just 30 minutes of brutal fighting, HMS Guerriere, with no masts remaining, surrendered. Along with her first victory at sea, Constitution also earned her nickname during this battle.
An American sailor on Constitution noticed that some of Guerriere's solid shot were hitting Constitution's wooden sides and not penetrating. And the sailor exclaimed, "Huzzah, her sides are made of iron. See where the shot fell out." And that's where the nickname Ironsides comes from.
However, a few questions still remain. Why is white oak so important to the USS Constitution, and how did a Navy base in Indiana get tasked with supplying it? Inside NWS Crane's forestry office, you'll find robust displays of the wildlife found on the base, the history of the base itself, and USS Constitution memorabilia, including real copper paneling from the bottom of the ship and a reproduction cross-section of the hull showing how the white oak from Crane is used.
So outside here, this would be the outside where the water would come up to it, and these are the white oak planks that Crane would provide. Then these are the ribs of the hull, and these are typically made of live oak. These would come from like the South Carolinas, places like that, and this made up the ribs. And then on the inside is another set of white oak planks that could come from Crane.
White oak here in New England is actually a native species. It was very logical to use white oak, and white oak is an incredibly rot-resistant wood.
The white oaks have something called tyloses, and basically those tyloses plug the pores of the white oak. That is what allows no water to get into the ship. So that's what makes white oak so desirable for ships like the USS Constitution.
When the USS Constitution was constructed in the late 1700s, white oak was very prevalent on the east coast of the United States. However, as more people moved and towns turned into cities and growth and development occurred, finding that white oak was a lot harder to do.
Throughout its long career, USS Constitution has gone through many refits, but during its restoration in the 1970s for the nation's bicentennial, members of the Navy began seeing issues forming on the horizon.
There was this issue about if the Navy is committing to maintaining and restoring Constitution essentially into perpetuity, then there is going to need to be a pretty ready supply of the wood that's needed to maintain the ship. So in 1976, the then commanding officer of USS Constitution, Tyrone Martin, really started to push the Navy to say, where is the Navy going to get wood?
You know, Indiana grows some of the best white oak in the world. And so when they were looking for logs back in the 1970s, I believe it was, they were buying those from some other private entities just off of private land.
There's an actual forester, he's from Pennsylvania by the name of Lynn Andrews. He was working here in the 70s, and he said, why are you buying timbers from private landowners when you have a base here in Indiana that you can get these same quality, better quality white oak for free?
So, on May 8, 1976, Constitution Grove was officially dedicated, and NWS Crane has been providing the USS Constitution with a steady supply of white oak ever since. And it's the job of Navy foresters like Rhett and Rob to identify, manage, and harvest the best trees that nature can provide.
I mean, these trees will catch your eye. When you're walking in the woods, you'll see a tree and it's like, oh, there's a nice tree. We always have our measuring sticks, so we'll measure them, say, well, put a little dot on our map and say, that there's a potential Constitution tree. So some days you don't see anything that would ever come close to the quality, but if there is one out there, we'd find it.
And the white oak that we get are truly spectacular trees. And in that forest, the foresters of Crane work closely with the staff here at the Naval History and Heritage Command Detachment Boston, selecting trees to be used for Constitution for ongoing restoration and then future restorations.
What we are looking for and what Boston wants is, first we need to have a tree with a diameter large enough they can cut these planks that are 14 inches tall by 7 inches wide up to 40 feet long. So you can imagine what kind of tree it takes to get a board, or in this case a plank, that size.
They're brought out on flatbed tractor trailers in groups of 3 to 5. And then we have large timber mills here that we can use to cut those trees up for whatever. They're going to be hull planks on the ship. If they're going to be used for the big fighting tops up in the rigging, we've got many, many uses for that white oak from Crane.
Clearly, there are people who want to keep the legacy of the USS Constitution alive, as well as keep her afloat for other generations to discover and remember. From the U.S. sailors who serve aboard her, to the carpenters and artisans who maintain her, and even the personnel at NWS Crane who steward the forest that supports her right here in Indiana.
To think that there is a ship that went out to sea, took cannonballs from enemy fire, and is still afloat, I think it's important to keep that part of our history and our heritage alive, and kind of like keeping one of our founding fathers alive.
Here in the United States, we value our history so much that somehow the Navy will continue to figure out a way to preserve the ship. After all, the ship is named for the document. It's named for the Constitution of the United States of America, one of the founding documents that creates this country. How can you not also keep the ship that has held that name for 225 plus years and carries that story forward?
For us, it's not the value of the trees or the value of the product that we provide. It's being able to support the USS Constitution, and that's priceless.